So good morning everybody and welcome to this morning's year-end process 2016 webinar. My name is Vicky Clark and I'm joined today by my colleague Audrey Mooney, and we'll just be delivering the webinar this morning for you. Just as people are signing on, I might just do a quick sound check with you. Over to the right hand side you should have a control panel, and on that control panel you have a questions bar. If you can hear me okay, will you just type in yes for me or a Y, just so I know that everything is fine. Brilliant, that is great. I'm seeing lots of yeses come through there. That's great. Okay. So, we'll get going in a second. Just a couple of things just to let you know. So today's webinar will be recorded for you. So it just means that you can maybe concentrate on the presentation, and Audrey's going to be showing you some of the software first of all, and then I'll be showing you the Revenue Online service part of the webinar. So we are recording it for you, and we'll send the recording on to you after today's webinar. It's usually probably later today or tomorrow morning. We'll also send you the PowerPoint slides as well so that you can have a look back at those at your leisure. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions on what we are covering, please do use the questions bar that you've just used, just for the sound check there, and type them in for us, and we'll do our best at the very end just to answer what we can for you. Okay, so we'll get going. A good bit to cover there. So I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Audrey. She's just going to do the first part of the webinar. Okay, thanks Audrey.
Thanks Vicky. Good morning everyone. Okay, so we're just going to look, I suppose, at the processes involved in getting to your year-end and in fulfilling your year-end obligations. So the first thing, I suppose, that you need to ensure that you do for year-end is to complete the payroll for the tax year. So in this case, to complete the payroll for 2016. So all payroll frequencies for which you operate payroll should be completed prior to running any of the end-of-year revenue returns, so your P35, and also before you issue any end-of-year documents to your employees, so the P60s. So you should update all pay periods for the tax year by going to Payslips and update Payslips. Okay. So when you go to update Payslips, you enter the pay date applicable to the final pay period for the pay frequency within this tax year. So in monthly payroll, it's always going to default to whatever today's date is on your PC, and you would simply amend that to be the correct pay date for that month. On weekly, it will increment by 7 days from your last pay date. Now, sometimes for Christmas, people may be paying early, etc. So that's just something you can amend the pay date if it's not correct. So we'll just have a quick look at that in the software. Okay. Okay, so you can go to Payslips and update Payslips. Alternatively, you can click on process icon number 4. So if you use the process icons, that's fine. Obviously, you should always make sure that your payroll, that you've entered for that pay period is correct. So, you would look at the payroll preview there and just make sure that everything is correct. Okay. So back to update Payslips. So you can see, as I mentioned, it's just defaulting to today's pay date, because for monthly payroll it doesn't know the pay date. It could be the last Friday of the month, the last working day, etc. So you simply enter in the correct pay date for that pay frequency. Okay, and click on update. You get the message file successfully prepared for updating. You click OK. It then brings you in, as always, just to take your backup. So this is especially important, I suppose, at the end of the year. It's always important, but especially important just at the end of the year. So I'm taking a backup to my memory key, and the backup should always be taken to an external drive so that it is secure and away from your computer should something happen to it. Okay. You'll always get this message if you're backing up to the same place, just to tell you that the backup already exists and do you wish to overwrite it, and the answer to that should always be yes. You've successfully backed up. So it's now telling me update completed for month number 12. Okay, so the payroll should be completed for each pay frequency. So in my case here in my company, I also have a weekly payroll. So I'm just going to go to the window menu and weekly payroll. and process my payroll for week number 52 as well. So again, just a quick look at the preview to make sure everything is okay. Okay, and back to update payslip. So you can see it's defaulting to 7 days from my last pay date. And if that's correct, that's fine. If it needs to be amended, then you can amend it to another pay date within the same tax week. Date. When you take a backup, it is backing up the entire company. It's not just the pay frequency that you're in. So every time you make a change, it's important just to take that backup. Okay. So if I'm not running a week 53, at that point then my payroll is complete. It's always worth checking the status bar at the bottom. Just you can see the grey status bar there. So it's telling me weekly last pay date is the 29th of December 2016 for week number 52. And monthly last pay date is the 22nd of December 2016 for month number 12. So you should always make sure that that status bar at the bottom is reflecting the entire year before you move on to process any of your year-end returns. That might sound quite basic, but people do reverse payroll and sometimes it can be reversed and not updated again. So it's certainly a good check to do. Okay. So just to move on then and talk about week number 53. Okay, so week number 53 or a week 53 occurs when there are 53 weekly payrolls in the tax year, and week 53 will fall on the 31st of December, or in a leap year it will fall on the 30th and 31st of December. So for 2016, employers paying wages on a Friday or a Saturday both have a requirement for week 53. Simply because there's 53 Fridays and 53 Saturdays this tax year. So you only, as I said, have a week 53 when there's 53 of your normal payday in the tax year. Okay. Thesaurus Payroll Manager will always offer a week 53 option subsequent to the completion of week 52. Some employers will need it, others won't. But week 53 should only be processed if on completion of week 52 you have a subsequent pay period within the same tax year. Thesaurus Payroll Manager, excuse me, automatically applies the revenue rules for week 53 where there is a requirement for week 53. There's no user action required. It's very important, you'll see the note in red there, that everybody sticks to revenue's PAYE calendar. And for that reason, you should only ever do a week 53 when you do actually require it, because otherwise you're going to end up on the wrong week number, in revenue's eyes, if you like, for a few years to come. So it's extremely important just to stick to those, the correct week number and corresponding pay date. And if you do ever get a message from the software telling you the pay date doesn't match the week number, it is important to stop at that point, give us a call, because that does mean that there is something wrong, and it's easier to fix something, as soon as it goes wrong than it is to, to fix it when you're down the line somewhat. Okay. So just to speak then about the week 53 concession, so Thesaurus Payroll Manager automatically applies any USC cutoff points, employees' tax credits and cutoff points on a week 1 basis in the week 53 payroll as per revenue regulations. If, however, and this is a revenue rule, an employee's normal payday has changed during the tax year or the preceding tax year, the employee is not entitled to those additional USC cutoff points. So where an employee isn't entitled to the USC cutoff points for week 53, you do need to instruct the software to prevent the additional USC cutoff points being allocated. And this is done by going to Employees, Add and Amend Employees. You select the employee, access the Revenue Details tab, tick to indicate that there are some exemptions or exclusions, and tick to exclude the employee from the week 53 USC concession, and simply click on Update just to save that change. So we'll just have a look at that on the software. Okay. So this is where an employee's normal payday has changed in this tax year or the preceding tax year. You need to instruct the software that USC, the extra USC cutoff points don't apply. So as mentioned, you go to Employees and Add and Amend Employees, or if you use the process icons, you can click on process icon number 1. You select your employee, click on the Revenue Details tab. So down at the bottom left, you tick to indicate that there are exemptions or exclusions. Okay, and then tick to exclude the employee from the week 53 concession for USC. Okay, you have the little question mark there, which just gives you a little bit of information in relation to that concession. So by ticking that, you're asking the software not to give those USC cutoff points for that week 53. So the additional ones, you know, all of their USC would be calculated on the annual cumulative USC cutoff points. Okay, and update to save that change. Okay. So on completion of the final payroll for each pay frequency that you operate payroll, so that is monthly and or weekly or fortnightly, you should then issue final pay period payslips to all employees. You would access the payslips menu and go to print or email payslips. You would select, once in there in the utility, you would select printed or email as per your requirements. Okay, so again, we'll just go back to the software for a moment. Okay. So payslips and print email payslips, or again, if you use the process icons, it's process icon number 5. Okay, so under the payslip type, you have the email payslip. You also have the 2 per page low resolution and high resolution. So you just select the payslip that you require. Okay, when you select the email payslips, it'll only show the employees that you have email addresses entered for. Okay, email. So that's my payslip email there to Joseph Adams, and you would then go to window and into the opposite pay frequency, in this case monthly, and issue the payslips on the monthly to the monthly paid employees also. Okay. Okay. So once the final pay period for the tax years, once the final pay periods for the tax year are complete, so your weekly or fortnightly and your monthly, you prepare and submit the final P30. So you access the ROS menu in P30, and you prepare the P30 report by selecting the report you have used to date. So that's either the P30 by date or the P30 by week number. Okay. And you simply review the P30 figures. So this is going to show you the figures for the month or quarter ending December, the 31st of December 2016. So it's simply just a review, a check, just to make sure that you are happy with the figures that are displaying on screen. Okay. So you would submit the P30 return for the period and arrange your payment to revenue in accordance with the P30 deadline by your ROS debit instruction, etc. And update your payment record within Thesaurus Payroll Manager. So again, we'll just go back into the software for a moment. So under the ROS menu, you have P30, and then, as we said, select the P30 that you have been using to date this tax year, so either the P30 by week number or the P30 by date. Okay, so this is showing me here the, I would just concentrate on the liability for December, whether that be the quarterly figure or the monthly figure. Okay, once I've completed my ROS P30 by either uploading it to them or by doing an online return, I can then enter my payments for the last tax period. Okay. We haven't entered them on this one so far this year, so this is showing no payments so far. But if you have been using the payments record, you would simply enter the amount there in the December field and the date that you made that payment and click on Update. Okay. Okay, so just to speak then about employer-paid medical insurance. Sorry. Where an employer pays medical insurance on behalf of employees, the employers are required to include the portion of the medical insurance premium that is eligible for tax relief for each employee on the P35 for revenue. The medical insurance providers would advise employers of the amounts for each employee, and these amounts must be input into the payroll for all applicable employees prior to submitting the P35. Thesaurus Payroll Manager will not prepare a ROS P35 until this requirement is met. So we know that the P35 will be rejected by ROS, with the absence of those figures. So we just won't allow you to prepare it until that, mandatory information is entered. So this will only affect employers with employees on the payroll for whom a medical insurance benefit is present. Okay. So from the Utilities menu, you would choose Input Medical Insurance Eligible for Tax Relief, and all employees will be listed. So you choose the first employee record for whom a medical insurance benefit exists. You enter the tax relief at source or the medical insurance eligible for tax relief value as advised by the medical insurance provider. So you can enter it either way, and the system will, if you enter the TRS, the system will then calculate the amount eligible for tax relief. So you can go either way. Okay. So any TRS figure entered will automatically be incremented to give the medical insurance premium eligible for tax relief, and this is the revenue P35 requirement. The amount cannot exceed the taxable premium paid by the employer, so that is the value of the benefit that the employee has been taxed on through the payroll year to date. Once you're happy with the figures that you have entered, you select Update to save the entry, and just repeat this process until all relevant employees have been updated. So until you have updated all employees, for whom a medical insurance benefit exists on the payroll. Okay, we'll have a look at that in a moment on the software, just when we're looking at the P35. Okay. Okay, so it is important then, I suppose, just to, to review your end of year reports in the software to ensure that you're satisfied and happy with the final payroll information and figures prior to proceeding to the P35 submission. So you would access the year-end P35 report, so by going to P35 P60's menu and selecting the P35 spreadsheet file copy. So this is just a simple just a simple report that you can keep on your own file. So this gives a full listing of all employees employed within the tax year for all pay frequencies. So it's bringing all of your pay frequencies together at this point. Okay, so the employee's wages as processed each pay period are accumulated and displayed, and this is the information that will end up being transferred to the P35 file for the ROS transmission. So the checks that you should do, so one would be to ensure that all employees employed during the tax year are listed. So just make sure that there's nobody omitted. Everybody that has worked and been paid by you this tax year needs to be included on this report. And ensure that all employees have a PPS number present. In the absence of a PPS number, the date of birth and full address are required by revenue. Okay, so if you don't, ideally you would have a PPS number for everybody on your payroll, but if you don't, you do need to ensure that you have a date of birth and a full address. Otherwise, again, that file will be rejected by revenue. If an employee had multiple employments during the tax year, Thesaurus Payroll Manager will amalgamate the records when preparing the ROS P35 file as per revenue requirements. So this would happen if you had somebody working with you and they left and they came back within the same tax year. So the program will automatically amalgamate those records, as revenue will only accept one record per PPS number. Okay. Okay, so while you're reviewing the P35 report, if there are any errors or omissions in the report, they should be rectified before proceeding to preparing and submitting the P35 to revenue. The reverse update function can be used to revise historical payroll information if it's appropriate to do that. But for information that has been omitted, such as a PPS number, address, etc., you can simply update the employee's record in Add and Amend Employees. Okay. So we'll just go into the software there for a second. Okay, so under the P35 P60's menu, you have the P35 spreadsheet file copy. So this is just, as I said, a very, I suppose it's a nice neat report that you can print from the software just for your own hard copy files. It's just, I suppose it's a simpler form than the P35L, although it contains the same information. So this can be reviewed. So I can see straight away there that I have no PPS number in for Joseph Adams. So that is obviously something that I should amend before proceeding to preparing my P35 and uploading it to revenue. Okay, so it's just a quick review to make sure that you're happy with those figures. So if there is something that needs to be amended, I can simply close out of the report. If it's just an address or a PPS number, etc., I can go to the Employees menu, Add and Amend Employees, select the employee and include the missing information, so in this case a PPS number. Okay, I'm going to leave that out for a moment just so that we can see what happens when we go to prepare the P35 for us. Okay. Okay. So that's just back to that report there. Okay. So prior to submitting the P35, the payment status should be established. So you should know in advance of preparing or certainly submitting the P35 what situation you're in with revenues. I mean, is there a balance payable to revenue and submission of the P35 in addition maybe to the last P30 payment? Or has there been an overpayment, so maybe you're in a reclaimable position? Or if all payments are made, there may indeed be a zero balance. But you just should be aware of that status, I suppose, before you upload the P35 to revenue. So you should reconcile payments made to revenue as per the ROS account, and this can be done by preparing a ROS statement of 2016 payments on account. Okay, so within ROS then, to prepare a ROS statement of 2016 payments made, you can check your P30 periodical payments made on account to revenue for the tax year by logging into the ROS account and selecting the revenue record. From the options menu there on the left-hand side, you can choose payments. Okay. And just select the tax type of PAYE EMP and the tax year 2016. And this will display all payments made for the tax year. So you'll see all payments made on screen. So this is the payments that revenue have for you. It's not the payments that you've recorded on our software. So this is what they have done as having received from you. So when you compare this to your P35, the liability on your software, then you will see, any difference, or you'll know whether you're in as a reclaimable position, whether you owe revenue, or whether in fact everything is clear and it's a zero balance. It's just worth reviewing that before submitting the P35. Okay. So the P35 deadline then is the 15th of February, or for a company that ceases trading, it's 46 days after the cessation of the business. When you are happy that the payroll is complete for the tax year, you can proceed to preparing and submitting the P35. Okay, so to prepare the P35 for ROS, again you're accessing the P35 P60s menu and you're selecting the ROS P35. Okay. So you should ensure that all validation issues have been resolved and enter the contact details as desired. You can click continue. The payroll will default to a file destination of C, the ROS folder, and P35L. If you're happy with that location, you can simply click on prepare file. Some people we know have ROS perhaps on a different PC, so they may need to save that to a memory key, etc. So you can just change that at your, as you need to. Okay, so just to go back into the software for a moment before I hand you over to Vicky. Okay, so under the P35 P60s menu, you have ROS P35. Okay, so it'll always ask you to ensure that you're on the latest version of the software. Okay, so to check that you're on the latest version of the software, you can simply go to Help and check for updates. Okay, so you always want to get that message that you're on the latest version. Provided you do have an internet connection when you're launching the software, it will always tell you if an upgrade is available, and it is important, I suppose, to run any upgrades that we release, ideally as soon as we release them. Okay, so we can go back to P35 P60s and ROS P35, and I'm happy now that I'm on the latest version, so I can click OK. Okay, so straight away here I'm getting a message to say that there is information required or invalid information as detailed above. You should close out of this routine and go to Add or Amend Employees to enter the, or I suppose correct the information, whatever the case may be. So it'll always offer to print, to give a printout of the validation issues. I'm going to say no for a moment. If you have a number of validation issues, it certainly might be worthwhile printing. I know what my validation issue is, and it's that I have no PPS number entered for Joseph Adams. Okay, and in addition I have no date of birth in for this employee. So I'm just going to close out of this routine. I just wanted to show you, I suppose, the message that comes up when there is missing information. Okay, and back to Employees and Add and Amend Employees. I'm just going to enter in the PPS number. If that employee was on your monthly payroll or the opposite pay frequency to where you are, you would simply go to the window menu to access the alternative payment frequency. Okay, so I have the PPS number entered now, so I can just click on Update. Okay, so he has been updated successfully. So I can now go back to P35 P60s and ROS P35. Okay, and I'm going to click on Continue. Okay, and I'm happy with this location, so I'll click on Prepare File. Okay, just 1 second there. Sorry, I just want to check something. Okay, I'm just going to reverse my last month. I had put something in and taken it back up, but somehow it's gone. Just bear with me for 1 second if you don't mind. I don't know what's happening there. 800. Okay, so I just want that medical insurance in just for month number 12. Sorry, I don't know what's happening there. Just 1 second. Sorry, I don't have it ticked. Sorry. Okay, so there's a mistake. I never ticked that it was medical insurance. Apologies for that. Update. Okay, so we now should be right. It's been too early this morning. Okay, and now I certainly should have that. Okay. So just to show, sorry, 2 minutes late, just to show what will happen if you attempt to prepare a P35 with the missing medical insurance information. Okay, so this is the message that we should have seen there a moment ago. So just please note that you have employees for whom you are paying medical insurance in respect of which BIK arises. So it's just explaining that since 2014, the requirement is there that you need to include the amount of that medical insurance that is eligible for tax relief. So it's just asking me, would you like to enter these amounts now? So to say yes. So I simply select the employee. So the medical insurance entered as the benefit is €800. So I've been instructed by the health insurance provider that the full 800 is eligible for tax relief. So I've entered the 800 and the system then has calculated the amount of TRS per the insurance provider. Okay, so I just simply click on Update. Okay, and close. And now I should have no issue in preparing my ROS P35. Okay, so it's telling me now that the ROS P35 file has been copied to the specified location, so that's gone to C, ROS and the P35L folder, and it'll always be named the last 5 characters of the PAYE registration number dash the year .P35. Okay, so that's saved ready then for uploading to ROS. I'm going to hand you over to Vicky now to take over for a while.
Thanks,
Vicky.
Sure, so just bear with us a second so I can access the screens. Okay, just 1 second there. Okay. Okay, so once you've prepared your P35 file in Thesaurus, you're now basically done with the software, and you're now ready to upload that P35 file into the Revenue Online service. So the first thing to do is just to log into your ROS account, and that can be done at revenue.ie and by selecting the ROS login option there. This will take you through to the screen that you can see on the slide here, and all you need to do is choose your certificate, your digital certificate, and enter the password that you have associated with that certificate. And then all you need to do is press the Log into ROS button here. Okay, this should then bring you straight into the My Services utility within the Revenue Online service, if it doesn't just select this option from the menu there. Next, you then just need to look under Returns and Payments that you can see here, and you're actually selecting Upload Forms Completed Offline. Here you'll find a drop-down menu with a variety of items in that drop-down listing, excuse me, and the one you'll be choosing is P35L. Okay. Once selected, all you need to do then is click on Upload Return, this little button here. Okay. This brings you through to a new screen. So the first thing to do is to click on the Add File button here. Okay, and this will bring up a window in which you then browse to the location of where you saved your P35 file to in Thesaurus. So Audrey saved to the C drive, to the ROS folder and the P35 folder there, which would be the default location. Okay, once you've browsed to the location of where you saved your file to, you will find your P35 file sitting there. So our file name was 4567E-16.P35, so you're going to select it. You'll find an open button just at the bottom of that new pop-up window, and that will bring then your file into this box here. So you need to see your file here before you proceed any further. Okay. You then enter your password again and simply select Upload File here. Okay. On the following screen then, you'll basically what ROS will do is read what's in that P35 file that you prepared in Thesaurus, and you'll see a breakdown of your P35L, your P35LT, if applicable, your P35LF and P35 declaration. Okay. So it's important just to look through that again, just to make sure that you're happy with everything. You'll also find P30 payment details, and this will be a total of all the payments submitted for 2016. It's probably best just to point out at this point that these figures are taken directly from your account with revenue and not from that payment record within Thesaurus Payroll Manager. The payment record in Thesaurus Payroll Manager is simply an admin tool for you, and no amounts are flowing through anywhere from that payments record in our software. So basically the figures you're seeing for your P30 payments are basically what revenue have, recorded at their side. Okay. You'll then find a P35 summary, and this will tell you whether you have either a balance outstanding with them, whether you have a nil balance that you're paid completely up to date, or if you are in a refund situation. Okay. So with these three possibilities, basically what revenue have done is they've taken, the calculation has been derived from taking the payments made on account that they have for you, and basically from the total liability showing on that P35 file that you have just uploaded to them. So they're determining whether there's a balance owing or not from that. Okay. Once happy to then proceed, you then need to choose whether you are going to make a payment or of the amount that they're prompting, that they're saying that's outstanding for you, or whether just to file the P35 return only. Okay, and maybe the reason for filing a return only is possibly because you are in a refund position, or you wish to make a payment at a later date, or I suppose what you do need to bear in mind sometimes is that maybe you have made the payment to revenue, but is not yet reflected on your account. So there could just be that timing delay that you've made the payment, but it's not yet showing at their side. So that's something really to be aware of. Okay. If you find that the amount due is equal to the December P30, again, for which payment's already been arranged, again, just do not repeat payment. That's the most important thing, really, just to say really concerning this slide. Okay. So should you choose to make a payment at the same time as filing your P35, then on the following screen then you'll just be asked to select your payment method, and that can either be a debit card payment or RDI, so a ROS debit instruction. Okay. The amounts due will be displayed on the screen for you, and all you need to do is enter the total amount of the payment you are making. Okay. Then you simply enter the date of your payment. Okay, and if you are paying by the ROS debit instruction method, this can be set to the 23rd of February. Okay. Once you're happy, then all you need to do is press the next button here. Okay, and you'll basically just get a summary screen just asking you to confirm your details and to confirm your payment. So it's just advisable just to check over everything here, make sure that you're happy. Okay, when you are, you're going to click the OK button, and you'll then be asked to enter your password again, And the very final step is to select Sign and Submit. So this is the point of no return, basically. Sign and Submit is sending everything off, and what you should then get is an acknowledgement confirmation number. This should be displayed on the screen for you. And again, we would recommend you just write this number down, make a note of it, just in case there's ever any comeback, you know, they say that you never submitted, for example. That really is confirmation that you did. You should also get an acknowledgement into your ROS inbox as well, so you know it's worth checking that location too. Okay. If you don't wish to make a payment, or you have no need to make a payment, then you'll be selecting the option to file return only. Okay. And again, all you need to do with here is just select the option. You can see where this arrow is here, just to select file return only and click on next. Again, this will take you through to the final screen, and again, all you need to do is enter your password and hit the sign and submit button again, okay, just to complete your P35 upload. And again, same again, an acknowledgement confirmation number will come through to you, make a note of it, and then you should get the acknowledgement into your ROS inbox as well. There. Okay, and that's basically your P35 upload complete. So your job is done in that regard. I'd just like to just bring to your attention, for anybody who's listening today, if you have, if you're operating multiple payrolls under one PAYE number. By that, just to give you an examples of how that could happen, it could be possibly that you have, you know, maybe you've got weekly and monthly payroll, and maybe somebody in the office is looking after weekly payroll and they have the weekly payroll on their computer, and then somebody else maybe is doing monthly payroll on their own computers. So basically the payroll itself has been split up, but it is still the one PAYE number under which both are operating. Could be maybe you've got different branches, you know, so the payroll has been divided up in that manner. Okay. Where that is the case, it is important that when you are uploading your P35 file to ROS, that all parts are uploaded at the same time. So say you have the payroll split into two, okay, you'll need to upload the two P35 files. So I'll just use my simple example there where you may have weekly and monthly but separated. So the user who is doing the weekly payroll will need to produce a P35 file in Thesaurus, and also the monthly payroll operator as well. What you will need to do is upload those two files at the same time, and that's so ROS can basically amalgamate them for you and create one declaration from the two files. What you can't do is have somebody upload one file and submit it, and then for the second user to come along and go, okay, I've now got my file, I'm going to, you know, add that and upload it to it. It cannot work. It would just replace the previous ones. They need to be added at the same time. Okay, I'll just show you how to do that, because what you can't do, I suppose, is have those two P35 files in separate locations. They all have to be in the one folder. This is something ROS changed, I think it was last year, Audrey, I think, just to make people's life that little bit more difficult. So I'll just show you there. I'm just going to just come back to the software here. So just going to pop in here, just bear with me. What I am going to do is just, what you would need to do is just create a new folder. Say you have a central location that you know, all users can access. I'm just going to call this P35 files here. Okay, just close out there. So if I am user number one, say I look after the monthly payroll, so I'm going to come into my software, I'm going to prepare my ROS P35 file. Just press continue, and I'm going to browse to that location. And I'm going to save that file. So there's my P35 file there. Okay, and prepare file. Okay, so that's my my P35 file with my default name there. Okay, what I'm then going to do, because I know that somebody else is going to come along and they need to save the same file as well into that same folder, I'm just going to go back into that folder now. Okay, and I'm just going to rename that to A there. Okay, because basically what I can't do is have two P35 files with the same name in the one location, so hence why I'm just renaming the first one there. Okay. Now, I'm just going to use the same file, but if this was obviously maybe a different machine, I'll just pretend it's the weekly payroll now. So the second user would then do the same thing. They'd come into Thesaurus, they're going to prepare their P35 file. Okay, and I'm going to save it into that central folder that I've created. Excuse me. Okay. So you can see here now, if I go to that P35 file folder, those are my two files. So I need to have all my P35 files from all the separate locations in the one place. Okay. Once that's done, I'll pop back to the slides here for you. Sorry. Okay. Then obviously log into ROS again, as we've just seen, and what you're going to do at the add file stage is browse to that folder where your two P35 files are. What you then need to do when you're at that folder is hold down your shift button and select the two files at the same time. And when you press the open button, you need to then get that will bring the two files in for you. Okay, and then you can then complete the same process that we've just seen. Basically ROS will amalgamate those two files for you and give you one set of figures basically. So I hope that makes sense. It's something that changed last year, so it was fairly new to all, but it's just really, it does come up quite a bit. So if we have any attendees today that applies to, then that would be the procedure for you. Okay. So once you've submitted an original P35, there are occasions where you may need to do an amended P35 or possibly a supplementary P35. And there is a difference between the two, so it's good to know really when you would need to do an amended P35 or when you would need to do the supplementary. So if we just have a look at the amended P35 first. So an amended P35 return is needed when an employer has already submitted a P35 to ROS, so that's your original one, and they then wish to make a change to an employee who was on that original P35 return. So possibly in the payroll they may do a reverse update, make a change to figures, update again. That would then lead to an amended P35. Okay, so you can upload an amended P35 to ROS, and what that does, it basically completely replaces the original P35 that you did. Okay. What Revenue always advises is that employers or third-party agents who are submitting P35s for employers, that you should wait for receipt of your original P35 before you attempt to upload an amended P35. So just make sure you know for definite that that original P35 has been accepted. An amended P35 can be done in Thesaurus, and again I'll just pop back to the software here. So say you have made a change, and all you need to do then is pop into P35 P60s, into ROS P35 here, and you just need to tick the button at the bottom, tick here if this is an amended P35, i.e. you have already submitted a P35 before. So I'm going to tick that. Just ask you to confirm that it is an amended P35. If it is, you say yes, continue, okay. And the process is exactly the same. Again, you log into ROS and you upload that file. Okay. Sometimes you may need to do a supplementary P35, and this needs to be done basically where you have failed to include an employee from your original P35 return. So you may have submitted your P35, there was 10 employees on it, maybe now there should have been an 11th employee, they simply weren't included at the time. So this is when you need to do a supplementary P35L return. And what this does is simply adds an employee record to your original P35. So it's not replacing anything, it's simply adding on to your original. Again, Revenue's advice would be, only do this once you are absolutely certain that your original P35 has been accepted. Okay. Now, supplementary P35s are something that Thesaurus Payroll Manager can't do. We just don't facilitate supplementary P35s. The alternative, though, and it's really the quickest and the simplest way of doing a supplementary P35, is by logging into your Revenue Online service and choosing that supplementary P35 option and just filling in the required details there. Okay. So your final task for year end is to then make sure that all employees in your employment as at the 31st of December are issued with a P60. Okay, and as you probably know, a P60 is an employee certificate of income and deductions for the tax year in question. Okay, all you need to do is provide one copy to each employee, and these are to be issued to all employees by the 15th of February. That is your deadline there. Okay. Revenue advised that P60s only need to be made available to employees, so that means that you can, as well as printing them and handing them to the employee or posting them, you can also send them by email as well. Okay, and Thesaurus Payroll Manager facilitates both options there. I'll show you that in a second. For a number of years, P60 stationery has been discontinued, so all payroll software providers are allowed to, basically provide the P60 template, which can be printed to A4 paper. Okay, and we can confirm that the Thesaurus Payroll Manager P60s are in accordance with Revenue's guidelines there, that they meet the guidelines required. Also as well, what Thesaurus Payroll Manager can do is also print them in the Irish language for you, should you require that option. Okay, so I'll just pop back into the software just to show you where you need to go. Sorry, just bear with me there. Okay. Okay, so to access your P60 utility, click on the P35 P60 menu and pop into P60s here. Okay, so here you see I have one employee on weekly, so their name is displayed in the box here. And here, just this box here, I've got print or email, so this is where I select the option I require. If you have an email address entered in the employee's record, then when I select email, their name will come up there. Okay, or we can print. If you choose to print, it is just advised that you just do a preview to screen, especially if you're doing a batch run. Again, let me just do that to the screen there. Okay, just to make sure you're happy with everything before you press print and run a few employees off there. I suppose what's just worth mentioning here is that your printer settings do need to be set to A4. If I just print that to screen again there, you can see there's quite a lot to fit on. Some people may by default have their printer settings set to letter, and you may find that the P60 then runs over onto 2 pages. So you need to just make sure, and usually you just, if it is set to letter and you're having difficulty, just pop into your devices and printers here. I'm not sure what I have in here actually, but that you maybe right click and go to properties and just check everywhere that your paper size settings are set to A4, okay, just for them to print properly for you. Okay, so all I need to do is hit the print button. If you have departmental analysis in operation, you've got your employees assigned to different departments, you can run the P60s off by department as well here. Okay. Once I close out, if I have multiple pay frequencies in operation, you will get that reminder. So it's telling me now that I do have monthly employees, and all I'm going to do is switch my window to monthly and repeat the process then for my monthly employees. So you can see here that my setting is email. I've got Peter Jones showing here, but if I change it to print, I've then got all my employees there. Okay, so my Mary Smith doesn't have an email address entered. Again, just something else I can do here, if you do have a mixture of people that you need to print for, or you then wish to email others, you can kind of narrow down that listing so you can exclude employees with email addresses from printing there. Okay, again, as we've just mentioned, if you wish to print the P60s in the Irish language, just simply tick the Irish language box here. Okay, and you will have an Irish language P60 there. Okay. Okay, and that's just on the next slide there, it's just what I've shown you there. So when we send the slides on, you'll have a breakdown of what you just need to do. Okay, so now just pass you back to, oh no, sorry, just one more slide before I pass you back. Yeah. Just to bring to your attention, so there's nothing really to worry about yet, and it's something that software providers are going to take care of. But you may recently have been in receipt of an e-brief from Revenue regarding proposed P35 changes. I think it came through a couple of weeks ago now. But basically for next year, so for 2017, there's going to be additional information required on your P35 return. The first is now that you will need to report on any company share-based remuneration that's going through your payroll. Okay. So again, like I say, you don't need to worry too much about it. If that does apply to you, then we'll make sure that we capture it for you. So kind of all these really are background changes, but just to let you know, this is what they're now looking for. Secondly, what they will be requiring is at employee level a breakdown of, well, I suppose the amount of taxable benefits, so the total amount of non-cash benefits other than company share-based remuneration that is included in an employee's taxable pay amount. Okay, at the moment this is done at employer level, that you report just one figure for all your employees as a whole. This is now going to be at employee level, so each individual employee will have a breakdown of, a taxable benefit figure on their P35 there. Okay, I now pass it back to Audrey. I jumped the gun a little bit there.
I panicked for a moment.
There we go, Audrey.
Thanks, Vicky. Okay, so just I suppose it's quite relevant to the time of year we're at, so we just thought we may as well cover the small benefit exemption. So under the small benefit exemption scheme, an employer can provide an employee or a director with a small benefit. So that is a voucher or a benefit, a tangible asset other than cash, with a value not exceeding €500, and PAYE, PRSI and USC need not apply to that benefit. Okay, so only one such benefit can be given in a tax year, and where there's more than one benefit, subsequent vouchers or benefits have to be taxed even if the combined value is under the threshold of €500. Okay. Also, if the benefit exceeds the threshold, so if, for example, you were to give somebody a voucher for €505, the full amount of the benefit is subject to PAYE, USC and PRSI. So it's best just to cap them at the €500 mark. The benefit cannot form part of a salary sacrifice scheme. So this has to, it's seen as, I suppose, a reward to an employee. The most popular use of the small benefit scheme would be for employers to give an employee a voucher at Christmas time, maybe. So I mean, I suppose it's a tax efficient way of giving something to an employee, and under the small benefit exemption scheme, these don't go onto the payroll at all. They're simply something you give to the employee. You of course have your records for your purchase, etc., but they don't go onto the payroll because they're not subject to PAYE, USC or PRSI. Just to recap on the main points there, the value cannot exceed €500. It cannot be cash. If you give somebody money, it's taxable, and that's end of, unfortunately, so it can't be taxed. So this is a nice alternative. Only one such benefit can be given in a tax year, and that's, as I said, even where the combined value is under the threshold, there's only one small benefit per tax year that is, falls under the scheme. Where the benefit exceeds the threshold, again, as I said, it's fully taxable, USCable and PRSIable. And very, very important, it just cannot be part of a salary sacrifice scheme. Okay, so just bearing in mind, I suppose, that the most common use of the small benefit scheme is, to employers giving employees a voucher at Christmas time. So this kind of leads us on then to the next slide. Okay, so in Thesaurus Payroll Manager, we now have gift card integration with one-for-all vouchers and Me2You gift cards. The gift card companies do not charge Thesaurus customers for that integration. One-for-all offer payments by EFT to Thesaurus customers, and this is a facility that is not available to regular customers. I think normally you have to have a corporate account, and I think to open or to get a corporate account is quite difficult. So a nice benefit there is that you can pay by EFT for the one-for-all vouchers. Also, I mean, if you go to the post office to purchase one for all vouchers, there is a charge. I think it's €2.50 for the first voucher and 50 cents, I think, per voucher after that. And those charges, you know, don't apply when you use the integration within the software. So, I mean, it's definitely a nice feature to have there. Thesaurus Payroll Manager tracks the gift card purchases, and it will alert you if you attempt to purchase more than one gift card for an employee in a tax year. Because of the small benefit exemption scheme, it is limited to one. Only gift cards that you purchase through the integration will be tracked. Okay, so you need to use that facility in order for the payroll software to track them. In addition to this, the software prevents users ordering amounts in excess of the exemption limit, which is currently €500. That was increased to €500 just before the end of last tax year. Before that, it was €250, so that was a nice increase. The software tracks the gift cards using PPS numbers, but PPS numbers and any other personal information is not shared with the gift card companies. Okay, so the gift cards will be sent out to the employer, you know, so they're not getting any of that personal information. And just as I said already, the gift cards are a tax-efficient way of recording employees. I mean, there's a substantial saving in giving somebody a €500 voucher versus €500, you know, net income, which would be applicable to PAYE, PRSI for both the employee and the employer and USC. So a significant saving to be made there. Okay, so the gift card option can be accessed in the software by clicking on process icon number 8 or by going to gift cards from the menu and select order gift cards for employees. If the employer address is not complete, it does need to be entered, so that's just required information. You also need to enter a full contact name, a contact telephone number and a contact email address. Okay, and you would choose the relevant gift card company, so either One for All or Me to You. Some employers may give employees the option, you know, ask them to check out maybe both sites and see maybe which voucher is the best one for them. Other companies will just look and decide which one, you know, they feel is best for them. So you choose or select the correct card value for all relevant employees, and when ready you proceed to the gift card website to complete the transaction. Okay. So when the transaction is complete and you return to the software, you will be asked, did you complete the order on the gift card website? And when you say yes, then you're updating the software, you're informing the software, you know, that the order has been processed, and it then has the card values for those relevant employees. Okay, so just showing the first screen is where you click to proceed, and then when you come back in, then you'll get this message here of did you complete. So just rather than showing two separate images, I just kind of showed them both on one there. Okay. To view the order history then, you can select gift cards from the menu and go to view history, and this will list the employees' names, PPS numbers, the card value that was ordered for them, and the date that that you know, card order was processed. If you need to make corrections, so maybe for some reason, you know, you had one value on the software and when you got to the website you changed the value, you can double click on the relevant amount and just simply enter in the correct amount. Or if it's a case that, I don't know, something happened that you didn't end up giving maybe one of the employees a voucher, you know, you can simply enter 0 and you're instructing the software then that the employee didn't receive that benefit or that voucher. So we can just have a quick look at that in the software before we move on to our questions. Okay, so we have gift cards here, or the little gift card icon here, process icon number 8. Okay. So you can see here it's telling me I have the company name and address. I have a full contact name, so I would enter in a contact number. Okay, and you can see here it's telling me that I already ordered 2 vouchers for Joseph Adams and Mary Smith yesterday. Okay, so it's telling me a card was previously ordered, so it's not going to allow me to order a second card because it knows that that wouldn't fall under the small benefit exemption scheme. But for Peter Jones here, there has been no card ordered yet, so I can choose a value for him. Okay, so I can see here on the right hand side I'll always have the total value. So if you're ordering a number of them, you know, you can keep an eye on the total value there. And simply just click to proceed to the gift card website. sorry, this is where you choose the voucher. So I mean, it's defaulted to one for all there. If it's me for you that you want, or sorry, me to you, you can just choose it. So you just make sure that that's on the correct gift card provider. Okay, and proceed to gift card website. Okay, it's going to bring me into the website, and I mean, this is what you see. You will see just the employee name, the value of the card. You can proceed to checkout, and there you would select your payment method, so whether you want to pay by EFT or by card. So you process that, the employer address and everything is there for you. And as mentioned then, when you come back into the software, you're asked to confirm the order. So did you complete this order on the gift card website? So I'm going to say yes. Okay. And now I can go to gift cards and view history. Okay, so I was messing around yesterday and I did put one in for him and then I changed it to 0. So just so you can see the whole history is there for you. But there's the new one that I processed today for Peter, just for, there for €500. So the full history is there. Okay, so that's just a new feature that was released there in the year-end upgrade, so you may already have seen it. Some of you may in fact even have already used it. Who knows? So I think we're ready then, Vicky, for any questions.
That's right, so that just completes our presentation. So we have a few questions in. If you have any questions and you've not yet asked us, if you want to just use your question panel, your question tab there on your control panel at the right-hand side, please type away. So just bear with us there, we'll just get the questions up. Sorry, so we just had a request, and one particular attendee just came in a little bit late and just missed about the week 53, so I don't know whether you could just quickly go through it again, Audrey, there, very briefly.
Okay, certainly. I suppose it's a very common question that we will get approaching the end of this year and sometime even into January. People asking, is it a week 53 year? And the answer is that it will be for some employers and not for others, because it is all determined by your pay day. So this year, 2016, is a week 53 year for companies that pay on either a Friday or a Saturday, because simply there's 53 Fridays and Saturdays in this tax year. So normally it would be, only for one day, but just with it being the leap year, this year it applies to employers that pay on a Friday or a Saturday. Next year actually it'll be a Sunday, so I'm sure there's probably very few people that pay on a Sunday. So not everybody has a week 53 in the same year. We did mention it's extremely important that you stick to Revenue's PAYE calendar and only do a week 53 when you're actually required, when you do need it, because otherwise it is going to leave you on the wrong week number for a number of years to come. It will go out on the recording of the slides anyway, just a little bit of further information there on week 53.
Okay, and probably just a question for myself just regarding the multiple payrolls. So what if there is an employee who appears in both payrolls with the same PPS number? Okay, a very good question. When you are uploading those two files, it is going to fail because it will see that there's duplicate employees there, so it won't be able to amalgamate them for you. So what you'll need to do is actually basically make the adjustment before you do your P35 files. You'll have to make the adjustment in the software. What you would need to do there is, I suppose, if you have, say, two separate payrolls, basically decide which of the ones you're going to go in, and what you'll need to do is zeroize the employee in one of the employer files and then take his figures and put them into the other one, merge them. Okay, if there are a lot of employees affected, then we can do a merge here. There's a small charge for it because it's a little bit of a bad job for us, but so always, if need be, if there's a lot of employees affected, then please do give us a ring and we can discuss your options. What you would need to do there, I'll just pop into the software here, you should be able to still see it on your screen. So in that case where you've got an employee in one employer file and the same employee in another, what you would need to do is go to Help, About Thesaurus, and press function key F6. Just bear with me there. Okay. This is just a little disclaimer saying that any figures that you change in the following screen are your responsibility, because we don't do any checks on these. So just say yes there. And this is bringing you into the employee's master file. So this is what populates the P35 and P60s for you. So say Peter Jones is in two separate employer files for the same PAYE reference. What you would need to do here is just take a copy of these figures Okay, unfortunately there isn't a print button here, but you could do a print screen maybe, or just write them down. What you would then need to do is go through the screen and zeroize everything. So basically that when you do your P35, the employee isn't going to appear at all on this one. Okay, and then you update the record. What you then need to do is take those figures that were there before you zeroized, open up your other employer file, go into Help and About again, and F6, just as we've done. Okay, and basically then merge, and I'll just choose Mary Smith here because she has figures, but if we pretend this is the same employee, what you need to do is add the figures in here. Okay, so it's a little bit messy really, but it's going to be the only way. It's just that ROS restriction that they cannot basically amalgamate duplicate employee records for you. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, please do let us know on that. Okay. Just a follow-on question to that, I do both weekly and monthly payroll on the one PC. Will the P35 automatically pick up both from the one PC? This comes down to whether, you know, if you're operating weekly and monthly within the same employer file, it will be fine. If you have two separate setups, maybe just go to the open company screen, maybe you have it here twice, you know, then you'll have to do two P35 files and do that multiple payroll upload.
Yeah, okay. One employer file, it'll automatically do that. So
yeah,
I'm not sure what the setup is.
Okay. I think
that's in relation to the small benefit exemption.
Yeah, the next question.
Provided to directors, and the question is yes, absolutely, you can.
Okay. Okay, just a question, I think, when are the new P2Cs due for 2017? The 8th or 9th of December, we've been told. Yeah, so over the course of those 2 days, they should be issued to employers for you. And just another question in there, just I suppose kind of a follow-on, is when will our 2017 software be ready for release? So we aim to have that, I think it's usually around the 15th of December. That's usually our release.
Yeah, I think last year we actually coincided with the P2C release.
Yeah.
So
we would tend to be looking maybe that second week in December, if not the start of the third week. It just depends if there's any last minute changes by revenue. That's why we hold off to December. Sorry,
just a question in there. We pay monthly the last Friday of each month. Do we need to go into the employee on a monthly basis, same as weekly? So I think that's in relation to the week 53 concession. So that would only apply to weekly payroll. On monthly, you would never have a week 53 or need to change anything there. So I hope that answers that.
Okay, I'm not sure, did we do this one there? Actually, this one here about the small benefit about having two part-time jobs.
So what happens if an employee has two part-time jobs and both employers wish to give the small benefit exemption? I don't see any issue with that. I think it's per employer. I really don't think there's any issue there. Can you give the Christmas bonus by giving more than one card for the same shop, i.e. 3 Tesco vouchers for €50 each? Unfortunately not. It is one per tax year. So if you give one for 50, the next €50 one unfortunately is a benefit in kind. So I know some employers operate, it's like where employees kind of build up tokens. So instead of giving the voucher at the time maybe that it's earned, if you like, they give a token for the voucher and then, you know, only get them all then at the end. So unfortunately the answer is no to that. It only applies to one benefit.
Okay, so just a question about the week 53 concession. So when there's no USC rates for week 53 when pay date changes for an employee, why would you change a pay date for an employee? And also, do you need to know pay dates for new employees coming from another employment?
Why would you change pay date? I don't know, employers sometimes do. Sometimes the pay date does change. And I suppose if an employee decides to move maybe from a monthly payroll to a weekly, that is seen probably to be a change in pay date. And you know, it does happen. We do get calls on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So just another one on the small benefit. I think it always gives rise to plenty of questions. If a €250 voucher was given earlier in the year, does that mean another 250 cannot be given for Christmas? And unfortunately, yes, it can't. It is one per tax year, and revenue are very strict on that. So you know, I suppose you're not doing any favours to an employee by breaking up these vouchers. You know, as I said, if you give them, I don't know, a token or something to say that they have earned a voucher, if you like, but only get one, you know, just buy one voucher per tax year.
Okay, just another question again. If you process weekly and monthly payroll for a company, will Thesaurus produce one P35 for both payrolls? Yes. I mean, I suppose we may have just confused it a little bit about going about multiple payrolls, but yes, if it's all in the one employer file, so when you go to file an open company, you've got one company here, and within that company you've got your weekly and monthly, then yes, when you produce the P35 file, it will have both your weekly and monthly in. I guess with the multiple payrolls, it means, I think, where you've maybe got two different setups of the same employer, you know, maybe on two separate machines, you know, so everything is within that one employer file on one PC. Okay. Let me have a look. Sorry, just now there's a good few questions coming in here. P2Cs, what can you do if you have a new starter during December after the 2017 P2C files have been issued by Revenue? Okay, so it was confirmed to us actually that usually in previous years, as soon as the 2017 P2C files have been released, basically you get no more P2C files for the current year. So for 20, you know, you'd be expecting no more to be issued. What they have confirmed with us, Revenue, that this year, and probably I suppose going forward, is that if you have a new starter after the 8th or 9th of December, you know, maybe you're taking Christmas stuff on, for example, that they will release new P2C files for them. So if you have any new starters, do make sure just to check. They have said they will issue them. Okay.
Okay, so just a question there. What way would it work for employers that pay weekly and pay a week behind? There's not really anything different there, to be honest, because the week number, as determined by, you know, the Revenue's week number, the week number we should all be following, is determined by pay date. So whether you're paying a week in arrears, a week in advance, or for the current week, you know, we also have to follow Revenue's PAYE calendar, which simply goes on payday. So paying arrears doesn't really, you know, affect anything, yeah. Do you know what I mean? So just your first payroll in January would be paying for the last week in 2016, but you still follow the same calendar as everybody else.
Okay. Do you wait until week 1 of 2017 to update new P2Cs, or basically can you do it in December? Yep. So yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yep.
I mean, as soon as you have the software for 2017, you can import the P2Cs for 2017. There's no need to wait. It's something that I suppose you can cross off and have done and just be ready to go. A lot of people even would have to do the first week of 2017, you know, if they're going to be closed for a period over the Christmas. So yeah, there's no need to wait.
Okay.
Is it compulsory to issue a gift card on payroll? Can it still be given and not included? Yeah, by using the gift card integration, I mean, you're not giving it through the payroll. It's simply just facilitating the ordering without having to key in values and without having to, I suppose, track gift cards yourself. It's still not really being issued, you know, through the payroll. You know, there's no record of it on an employee's payslip or anything. It's just a handy feature just to be able to order them. So absolutely, I mean, if you're going to the post office and buying them, etc., you can still do that in the same way. This is just a new feature just to make that a little bit easier.
Okay. Can I just confirm, I have employees that received a P45 at the end of June and restarted end of August and beginning of September. Will these be amalgamated on the P35? So yes, they will. Thesaurus will amalgamate those employees for you. Yeah, that will be automatic for you. And just as well,
sorry, I was just going to say on the P60, it'll show the totals for the year will be on the P60, but this employment will only show the most recent period of employment. So that's the revenue rules, you know, that the information under this employment is the most recent period of employment, but the totals will be correct.
And just to follow on to that, and a separate employee worked for 4 weeks only in August, should he appear on the P35? Yes, so anybody who's gone through your payroll will be on the P35. He obviously won't be entitled to a P60 because he's not present there, you know, he's not in your employment at the 31st of December.
I think there's a few more questions there that we just haven't got to, but we will follow up with those on those by email later on today, if that's okay. We're just kind of conscious of time there. Yeah. But we will absolutely get to all questions that we'll go through them, and anything that we haven't answered we will follow up by email.
Yeah.
and as we said earlier on, the recording will follow either later today or tomorrow.
Yes, as well as the slides. Okay,
So we're done.
Great. Okay, we won't keep you too much longer, conscious of time. We're just going over there for you. But many thanks for joining us today, and we do hope you found it informative. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.